Texas, land of booming economies, sprawling ranches, and unrelenting ambition, hides a shameful secret beneath its polished veneer.
Michael,
You have been homeless 34 years.
Yes.
While skyscrapers pierce the sky and politicians tout prosperity, thousands of Texans are left to fend for themselves, without shelter, without hope. Homelessness in Texas isn't just a statistic, it's a humanitarian disaster unfolding in real time, a glaring indictment of a state that claims to have it all. This is a story of broken systems, empty promises, and human beings reduced to shadows. The information in this video is gathered from trustworthy sources and first-hand accounts.
Risk getting a ticket just trying to eat. I've been homeless 2.5 years.
It's a mental breakdown. You know, if you don't find any kind of sort of way to find food, to shelter, it can get real critical. You know, sometimes it can get to a point where people die.
Can I stop it right now? We don't speak on behalf of any individual or organization. We simply aim to shed light on the challenges many Texans are facing today, with respect for all perspective. Now, let's uncover the haunting truths about the homelessness crisis in Texas, a microcosm of the painful crisis unfolding across the United States. As of the first half of 2025, 24,361 individuals are experiencing homelessness in Texas. Let that number sink in for a moment. That's nearly the population of an entire small town living without a home. This places Texas among the worst states in the nation when it comes to addressing homelessness. And it's not just a matter of bad luck or isolated circumstances. According to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, this figure represents a staggering increase over the past 2 years, driven by 3 major forces: rising rents, stagnant wages, and a social safety net so riddled with holes it's practically useless. These people aren't statistics, they're human beings. They're mothers trying to keep their kids safe in a car parked behind a grocery store. They're veterans who serve this country, now struggling to find a place to sleep. They're children going to school, unsure if they'll have dinner that night. Each of them carries a story we never hear, because society has trained itself not to look. The homeless in America, especially in a state as wealthy and proud as Texas, serve as a quiet but undeniable indictment of a system that continues to reward greed while abandoning those in real need. Then came the COVID-19 pandemic, and everything got worse. Housing insecurity became a national emergency. Emergency housing vouchers, issued as part of pandemic relief programs, provided a lifeline for thousands in Texas. But here's the problem. Those vouchers are temporary. Most are set to expire by the end of 2026, and without a replacement policy, we could be facing another massive wave of people being pushed onto the streets. Let's be honest, the chances of a meaningful federal response in today's divided political landscape are slim at best. Add to that the devastating hurricanes that struck the Gulf Coast in 2024. Entire neighborhoods were flooded, and many families who were already hanging by a thread lost the last thing keeping them grounded, their homes. These storms didn't just damage buildings, they destroyed lives. In their aftermath, Texas saw a sharp increase in displaced individuals who had nowhere to turn and ended up homeless. Texas has long marketed itself as the land of opportunity, a place where hard work pays off and anyone can make it. But for the 11,700 Texans currently sleeping on the streets, that narrative feels like a cruel joke. Where's the opportunity when rent eats up your entire paycheck?
Trying to get their lives together, none of them really had a job. I was working 60 hours between the two jobs, on top of dealing with CPS.
And then what happened?
I have bipolar anxiety and depression. I lost everything.
Where's the fairness when mental health services are only available to those who can afford them? When did we decide that corporate tax cuts and campaign photo ops were more important than giving people a safe place to sleep? The homeless in America are not invisible, they've just been ignored. But the longer we pretend they don't exist, the more we become complicit in a failure that defines who we really are as a society. In Texas, the risk of homelessness extends beyond the streets of major cities, affecting individuals and families across the state. Economic instability, rising housing costs, and systemic inequities have created a precarious situation for many. Low-income workers, even those holding multiple jobs, often find themselves unable to keep up with soaring rents and living expenses. In Houston, for example, 50% of homelessness is attributed to economic crises, such as job loss and unaffordable bills. Similarly, in Midland, 41% of the homeless population had been without stable housing for 3 years or longer. Veterans are another group at heightened risk. In 2023, Texas reported a 19% increase in homeless veterans, many of whom face challenges like mental health issues and substance abuse. Children and youth are also disproportionately affected. In the Texas Balance of State Continuum of Care, 1,332 children under 18 were counted as homeless in 2024. Nationally, the number of homeless children increased by 33% from 2023 to 2024. The elderly are not exempt either. In Midland, 54 seniors were reported homeless in 2025, and nationally, nearly half of adults aged 55 or older experiencing homelessness were unsheltered. These statistics underscore a grim reality. Homelessness in Texas is not confined to a single group. It's a widespread issue that affects diverse populations. It is expanding, and if immediate action is not taken, it will continue to affect more and more of us. In Texas, the term safety net is starting to feel like a cruel joke. For thousands struggling to survive on the streets, it's not a net at all, it's a maze. A system that was meant to catch people before they fall has turned into one that watches them hit the ground and keeps walking. Take healthcare, for example. For someone experiencing homelessness, seeing a doctor isn't just difficult, it's almost impossible.
I can't believe it. The reason I'm on the street right now is because of Social Security made a blooper and cut out my Social Security check, so I haven't drawn a penny in the last 2 months.
Most end up in emergency rooms when conditions are already severe, racking up an average of over $23,000 in annual medical costs per person. Taxpayers foot the bill while chronic illnesses, untreated injuries, infections, and mental health crises go unchecked. Emergency rooms have become the de facto clinics for the homeless in America, but they aren't built for long-term care, nor are they equipped to handle trauma that's more psychological than physical. And that trauma runs deep. Mental health issues and addiction are among both the leading causes and consequences of homelessness. Yet Texas ranks near the bottom in the nation for funding mental health services. There simply aren't enough beds, therapists, or community programs. People seeking help are placed on waiting lists that stretch for months if they're even allowed to apply. It's like telling someone drowning in the ocean that help is coming next summer. Then there's the issue of work. We often hear, just get a job. But what if you can't shower? What if you don't have an ID, a place to rest, or a clean set of clothes? Survival becomes nearly impossible, and the system offers little more than empty advice. Many job applications still ask for a permanent address, something tens of thousands of Texans simply don't have. Even for those who want to work, job training programs are often buried in red tape or designed for people who have already reached stability milestones the homeless haven't had the chance to achieve. It's like building a ladder and pulling the first 5 rungs off. Texas proudly touts its low unemployment rate, pointing to growth and opportunity. But that's cold comfort to the man sleeping behind a dumpster, never called back after interviews because he looks unprofessional. It means nothing to the single mom who can't leave her tent without risking all her belongings being stolen. It's not that people don't want to work, it's that the world isn't set up for them to even try. And here's the kicker, when people try to survive, they're punished for it. Texas, like many states, criminalizes basic human behavior. Sitting, sleeping, or asking for help on the street can get you ticketed or arrested. Panhandling, loitering, and setting up camp, even peacefully, are now treated as crimes. The 2024 Supreme Court decision in Grants Pass versus Johnson gave cities across America the legal green light to fine and jail people just for being unhoused, and Texas didn't hesitate to use it. This is where policy stops being policy and starts being cruel. Arresting someone for sleeping outside when they have nowhere else to go isn't solving a problem, it's creating a new one. Once someone has a criminal record, good luck finding a job or housing. That record becomes another chain, keeping them trapped in the cycle. We say we're tough on crime, but the real crime is letting people suffer like this in one of the wealthiest states in the country. What we're seeing isn't unique to Texas, but it's a brutal example of what homelessness in America has become, a problem we choose to punish rather than solve. When did surviving become illegal? When did we decide a citation was cheaper than compassion? The truth is, it's not cheaper, it's easier. Easier to look away, easier to blame, easier to arrest than to assist. But easier doesn't mean right. Homelessness isn't just an individual hardship. It's a public crisis that affects all of us. When people don't have a safe place to live, it impacts public health, safety, and the economy. Chronic illnesses go untreated. Mental health declines without support, and diseases spread more quickly when hygiene is out of reach. Communities feel the strain, services become overwhelmed, and fear starts to grow. Instead of seeing homeless individuals as neighbors in need, people begin to see them as problems. That fear breeds division, making real solutions even harder to reach. While some cities continue spending millions on police sweeps and emergency responses, the truth is this: it costs far less to actually help people. Housing First programs, which provide stable homes before addressing other challenges, have proven both humane and cost-effective. But Texas keeps moving in the opposite direction. Laws that criminalize camping in public push people further into the shadows. The recent Grants Pass decision only makes things worse, allowing cities to hide the crisis instead of solving it. This is what homelessness in America really looks like. Policy failures, broken priorities, and communities turning their backs. We can do better, and we must. The answer isn't complicated. Homelessness in Texas isn't some mystery. It's the predictable result of years of policy choices that ignored the needs of working people. The cost of housing has skyrocketed in cities like Austin and Dallas, with the average rent for a modest apartment hitting $1,800 a month in 2024. Meanwhile, the minimum wage in Texas is still $7.25 an hour. That math just doesn't work. To avoid being rent burdened, you'd need to make more than $25 an hour, something far out of reach for many. At the same time, the state has a massive shortage of affordable housing. For every 100 low-income families, only about 36 affordable units exist. Developers keep building luxury condos, but the people who need housing the most are left with nothing. And it goes deeper. The roots of this crisis are tied to systemic inequality. Communities of color, especially Black and Native American Texans, are disproportionately affected. That's no accident. It's the result of generations of discrimination, poverty, underfunded schools, and over-policing. Add to that the state's failure to fund mental health care, and it's a recipe for disaster. If you're struggling with trauma or addiction in Texas and you're poor, good luck finding help. Clinics are packed, treatment is rare, and instead of care, people get jail time. Let's be clear. Most people experiencing homelessness didn't get there because of bad choices. They got there because they had no choices. And instead of support, the state hands them fines and arrests. This is what homelessness in America looks like now. Not just a crisis of housing, but a crisis of how we treat our most vulnerable. Texas's response to homelessness is a patchwork of political theater, missed opportunities, and fleeting gestures. The 2021 statewide camping ban was marketed as a bold step toward public safety and city cleanliness. In reality, it criminalized poverty, pushing unsheltered individuals further into hiding without providing viable alternatives. Tents disappeared from downtown areas, but the people didn't. They were simply forced into more dangerous, invisible corners of society. This wasn't a solution, it was optic. Fast forward to 2025, and Texas lawmakers have introduced bills like HB 2016, aimed at creating a dedicated housing fund, and HB 2754, which claims to support homeless veterans. On paper, these initiatives sound promising, but scratch the surface and you'll find they are underfunded, loosely structured, and dangerously reliant on one-time funds or public-private partnerships that lack long-term guarantees. In a state as wealthy as Texas, tossing a few million at a crisis that demands billions isn't generosity, it's negligence. The state's $5 million allocation back in 2019, intended to cover homelessness, mental health, and addiction services, was laughable. When you break it down across 254 counties, it amounted to little more than a headline. It's not just about the money, though there is far too little of it. It's about priority. Politicians are more concerned with scoring ideological points than saving lives. Instead of funding mental health treatment, affordable housing, or addiction recovery, they focus on punishing symptoms, outlawing camping, removing people from parks, and pretending the crisis has vanished. Meanwhile, cities are doing what they can with the scraps they're handed. Houston's The Way Home initiative has made impressive strides, using a housing-first model that prioritizes getting people into stable homes before tackling other challenges. The results are undeniable. Thousands rehoused, thousands of lives stabilized. Dallas followed with its own $72 million investment, managing to house over 2,700 people by 2023. These are wins, but they're fragile and dependent on federal aid. Austin, despite its progressive spirit, is mired in political pushback and soaring real estate prices that make even modest housing initiatives expensive and slow. What's worse, much of this progress is under threat. The Biden administration's all-in strategy to cut homelessness by 25% by 2025 was rolled out with hope, but has quietly faltered. With new leadership in Washington turning a colder shoulder, cities like Austin and Dallas are bracing for cuts rather than expansions. The bottom line, Texas's homelessness crisis isn't just a policy failure, it's a moral one. While leaders trade sound bites and blame games, real people are dying on sidewalks, in shelters, or alone under overpasses. The clock is ticking, and unless those in power stop posturing and start investing in real, scalable solutions, this crisis will only deepen, and the consequences will echo through every corner of the state. Homelessness in Texas is solvable, but it demands both guts and vision. First, we need affordable housing, lots of it. Incentivize developers to build low-cost units, reform zoning laws to allow denser construction, and protect existing affordable housing stock. Programs like the Texas Tenant Readiness Pilot, proposed in 2025, could help, but they need real funding, not just token gestures. Second, support services are critical. Mental health care, addiction treatment, and job training must be accessible, not aspirational. Housing first models, with retention rates as high as 90%, demonstrate what's possible when we prioritize homes over handcuffs. Third, it's time to ditch punitive policies. Camping bans don't work. Safe camping sites with services like those in some other states do. Stop criminalizing survival and start preventing it. Finally, community engagement is the spark that ignites real change. Texans are compassionate when given the chance. Volunteer, advocate, educate. Every act builds momentum. The Texas Homeless Network's 2025 conference is a step in the right direction, but talk isn't enough. We need action, and we needed it yesterday. Homelessness in Texas isn't just a statistic. It's a human tragedy unfolding every day. Over 27,000 people in this state are without shelter, safety, or stability. This crisis is a reflection of a deeper issue that spans the entire nation. The homeless in America deserve more than pity. They deserve action, dignity, and lasting solutions. Texas has the resources, the innovation, and the spirit to lead the way. But real change begins with each of us. Like this video, leave a comment, and hit subscribe to stay engaged. Share this with your friends. Donate to local shelters or write to your lawmakers, because silence is complicity. Every step, no matter how small, brings us closer to a Texas where no child, no veteran, no mother is left on the street. We have the power. The only question is, will we use it? Join the fight. Subscribe now, and let's rewrite the future together. Let's make homelessness a thing of the past.